The title of this episode of the 24 Today podcast is, Did you kill someone today? In the book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 21, there is a verse that is, it just really kind of reaches out and grips you and makes you think. And this is Jesus talking, and he says, "You have heard that it was said to people long ago," and by the way, he's talking about the Ten Commandments here. "You've heard that it was said to people long ago, 'You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment.'" Now Jesus goes on and he says, "But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or a sister will be subject to judgment." In other words, if you're angry with somebody, you immediately are in an area in which God's attention is piqued. He's really listening and observing whenever you're angry with someone. You will be subject to judgment. In other words, don't think that just because you're angry, it's an excuse to say anything you want or act any way that you want. And then afterwards you can say, "Well, I was just angry. I just kind of lost control." And you know how it is because we get angry. Jesus is saying, you might say that, but I'm not letting you off the hook just because you were angry. You are still responsible for your words and your actions. Let me back up and read this again. It's Matthew chapter 15, verse 21. "You have heard that it was said to people long ago, 'You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment.' But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or a sister will be subject to judgment. And anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raka,' is answerable to the court." Now that word raka, we really don't know what it means. It's a very old, archaic Aramaic term, and all that we know that it means is it was a very contempt-oriented statement. Like you really had contempt, you were angry, you wanted to say something that was unkind and hurtful towards somebody. And it's just summed up in this word or expression, raka, which meant something to them in the day. So it says, again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raka,' is answerable to the court. This is what Jesus says. And anyone who says, 'You fool,' will be in danger of the fire of hell." Jesus isn't literally just saying if you say the words, "you fool," that's the only expression or set of words that causes him to be upset. No, it's bigger, it's broader than that. He's talking about anger and how we act, and specifically what we say when we are angry at someone. And when he mentions the whole idea of being in danger of the fire of hell, that's his way of saying this is a big deal to God. However we choose to use the God-given gift of our voice, the expression of being able to talk and utter words, however we choose to use that to build somebody up or to tear someone down, is huge to God. Words are huge to God. Jesus himself is known as the Word because words have such meaning. But words can be killers. This is why Jesus in Mathew chapter 15 wraps up this whole idea in the context of murder. He is saying we can murder people with our words. It's almost like we have loaded guns on each side of our face. We have loaded guns that are attached to our cheeks. And because they're loaded, if we're angry, it doesn't take much to pull that trigger. Words are killers. You know, in the book of James, it just talks about how we need to be so careful with our tongue, because our tongue is like a fire that with just a spark can burn down a whole forest. Our tongue, the book of James says, is the most powerful part of our body. Jesus in Matthew chapter 12, verse 34 says, "From the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." Or for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. In other words, whatever comes out of your mouth started in your heart. Whatever passes past your brain and through your lips is an indication of something that was in the heart. So Jesus again in Matthew is saying it's very important to take an inventory of what just came out of your mouth, because that is what is in your heart. And if it's in your heart, it can grow and eventually become who you are. So the question is, did you kill someone today? When we say hurtful words, when we slander, when we gossip, when we choose to not talk directly to the person but talk about the person behind their back or about the organization or about whatever, and in a bad, anger-filled way, we have the attention of Jesus at that moment. Because words can easily murder. The old expression, as you know, sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt us. You know that's not true. Because words do hurt. Words carry power. And that's a way we can murder someone. We can murder somebody's attitude. Somebody can have a good attitude, and in 30 seconds, their whole outlook on the day can be changed because of somebody's bad attitude that comes out through their lips. And while everyone is responsible for their own attitude, we also have a responsibility to be people of encouragement and trying to give people a better attitude. So words can murder good attitudes. Words can murder our example in front of our children, our example in front of other people who are watching us, other people who are younger, maybe in the faith, or maybe younger in their days on the job. And we can say something wrong about the company that was just ill-chosen, angry words that causes a bad example on us as a person, as an employee, as a believer, as a human being, as an adult. So words can murder our example. And finally, and there could be more, I'll just say that words can murder the spirit of another person. Words have this unique way of reaching down almost instantaneously and grabbing hold of the spirit and strangling the spirit that was once joyful, and the spirit that once had a good frame of mind, and the spirit that once was able to see the big picture now can be pulled down into the muck of a bad attitude and anger-filled words. Again, all of us are responsible as adults for our own spirit and our own attitude. And yet at the same time, we also are responsible to be people that will help somebody's spirit and not murder it. So the question is, again, did you kill someone today? Or are you killing someone right now in your continued attitude, negativity, gossip, slander? And if you have killed anybody, are there apologies that need to be made? Is there something God would have you do? At the very least, isn't it something that we need to talk to God about? And if you are killing somebody, you have the chance to turn that around and to plant positivity in their mind, and to even say, look, man, I've been in a bad way, and I've been speaking bad and thinking bad, and I own that, and I'm responsible for that. And I just want to say, to whatever degree it might have hurt you, I'm sorry. There was a man, as I close, there was a man in my last church who was the quietest man in church. And it wasn't that he was shy or was nervous to be around people. It had nothing to do with that. And one day I actually asked him why he was so quiet and never seemed to talk or speak up. And he wouldn't tell me the exact story, but he just said, when I was younger, I said something that devastated a person to the core. It hurt them so bad that I said to myself, I will become a man of fewer words. Because fewer words gives me the less opportunity to actually do that to somebody again. And while I always felt that was extreme, I see a lot of wisdom in that. I mean, whatever happened to the thought, if you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. Whatever happened to that? I think that we could all stand to regain that. And work at speaking less instead of more. Did you kill someone today? If this podcast has been helpful for you and you haven't already subscribed, just go to the subscribe button that you'll see on the page and subscribe. That way you'll make sure that you get everything that I put on the podcast the moment that it's available. And if it's helpful for you, it probably would be helpful for someone that you know as well. If you could send them a link or tell them about the podcast, and then also comment on the particular podcast wherever you're at. Rate it, if you will, and that will help others to be able to see and hear about the podcast.